Are you ready for amber waves of games? Get yourself a one-way ticket to Gainesville with Patriot a protein-packed powerhouse made from bald eagle eggs. Patriot Patriot Do it for America, or else.
Hello again. I am Brush Lee, an artist. Not to be confused with Bruce Lee, the martial artist. The time has come again to understand what the expectations will be for a phenomenal school year in the art room. You may remember last year when we discussed expectations. Using my power of multiversal time travel, I will quickly remind and rewind time so that you can see what the expectations still are. Yes, I remember that. Yes. Oh yes, that was quite disturbing. Yes. Yes. Still a rule. Yes, that's still a rule too. Yes. 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 The expectations and rules we have already covered last year, that we have just reviewed, are still rules that you must follow. Because surely by now, you have learned something. But there are a few other things that we will add, because this year, the expectations placed upon you are indeed greater. For goodness sake, please remember to put tops back on markers when you are done using them. Please refrain from dumping out all of the markers. Unless you are an octopus with more than 2 hands, you can generally only use one coloring utensil at a time. If you cannot complete the task of putting the top back on the marker when you are done with it, it will prove that you have learned nothing.
911, what's your emergency?
I have a kid who is whining about having to follow directions.
Sending the ambulance now.
Rulers in the art room are made for measuring and making straight lines. Rulers in the art room are not to be used for foolish games such as sword fights or making beats. You shall use your immensely talented music teacher to do all of your drumming and beat making, but you will not do it in the art room. Indeed, the rulers will not be used for lightsaber battles, or flicking across the room at someone, or creating catapults, or anything such as this. If you do any of these things, you will prove that you have learned nothing.
911, what's your emergency?
I have a kid who is whining about having to follow directions.
Sending the ambulance now.
Painting with a brush is a smooth operation, and we will not smash the brushes into the paper, or whatever surface we are painting on. We will take care of our materials as we discussed last year. We will not engage in splatter painting unless you have been given permission to do so by your art teacher. If you continue to engage in activities you have been told not to engage in, it will indeed prove that you have learned nothing. Placing the watercolor pencils inside cups of water is an ill-advised act. Doing so would prove that you have learned nothing. Because as we all know, when using watercolor pencils, you must color with them first. Then use a brush the proper way to paint over what you colored with the water. Playing with and improperly using art materials is another ill-advised act that would prove you have learned nothing from your years as an artist. Indeed, you must properly use materials at all times. The art room should be enjoyable, but it is not to be used as indoor recess. It is not to be used as a place for you to throw clay, or bounce model magic, or fling blocks, or anything of this nature. You may not have brush sword fights, or ruler sword fights, as we have discussed earlier.
911, what's your emergency?
I have a kid who is whining about having to follow directions.
Sending the ambulance now.
I have enlisted the aid of an acquaintance of mine, Quentin Tarantula, to help you understand the many nuances of voices inside the art room.
Yeah, thanks, Brush. All right, I'm Quentin Tarantula from the Arachnid American Film Institute, and... Okay, here's the thing. We want to make sure we're always using inside voices, okay? Inside voices. We don't want to be heard loudly at different parts of the school, okay? So we don't want to make our neighbors mad at us and come in and say we're being too loud, all right? We always want to keep it at a dull roar, all right? And I mean, seriously, here's the thing. We do have a neighbor right next door to us. The counselor's office right next to us, okay? And if she were to poke her head through the door, this is what we want to hear. This.
Wow, it's so quiet in here. I had to come and check and make sure you guys were all in here still. Y'all are being awesome today.
Right on, groovy. But there's also this. We don't want to hear this.
Oh my goodness, what is going on in here? Y'all are acting crazy today, like wild animals.
We want to hear this, okay? This.
Wow, it's so quiet in here. I had to come and check and make sure you guys were all in here still. Y'all are being awesome today.
But not this, okay? This is bad.
Oh my goodness, what is going on here? Y'all are acting crazy today. Wild animals.
I don't want to listen to my teachers. I don't want to follow directions. I don't want to.
911, what's your emergency?
I have a kid who is whining about having to follow directions.
Sending the ambulance now.
Many students are often nervous and curious about how their grade will be determined in the art room. To explain this, I have enlisted the aid of another acquaintance, the significantly less than moderately famous host of Art, Art, and Away, Mr. Luke.
Yes, and thank you for that wonderful introduction. Mr. Lutz here in animated form, here to tell you about grades. Some of you might be very concerned about being graded in an art class. Maybe you feel like you're not a good artist. Maybe you feel like I should be in PE right now, or something else. But rest assured that your art grade is not based on whether or not you can draw the Mona Lisa in 3rd, 4th, or 5th grade. Your art grade is based on your effort. Putting forth your best effort, trying your best, is something that all students have the ability to do. This is the only fair way art can be graded. I certainly don't want to grade you based on skill when not everybody has the ability to go home and practice art with an art set, for instance. And some of you may just have other interests, and art may not be a thing you're comfortable with right now. So, don't worry about that. Mr. Lutz is not out to get you. Most of you will probably fall in the category of getting those 99s. The kids that get 99s in art, certainly there's no shame in that. They're the ones that are in here trying hard. They try their best at everything. But maybe they don't have that extra oomph added to their artwork. And so that is where my students that get those 100s come in. Mr. Lutz wants to reserve those 100s for the students that display incredible, exceptional skill with whatever materials we're working with, whether it's drawing, painting, coloring, sculpting, working with yarn, weaving, whatever the task might be. Mr. Lutz wants to make sure that those students have some form of recognition for their incredible skills and talents. And please remember above all else that this is an art class, and in order to get a grade, you have to turn in some work. When you turn in your work, make sure it looks like you tried your best. If you don't turn in any work at the end of an assignment or project, then there's nothing to show for it. You're going to get a 0 or an incomplete for it. Make sure you turn in work that shows your best effort. If you turn in work that's scribbly or crumbly or torn up, work that obviously shows that you either didn't care or didn't try your best, you're not going to be one of those kids that walks out of here with a 99 or a 100. You're probably not even going to get an A. Make sure you're doing your best. Mr. Lutz wants the best out of you.
Purpose. Ah, yes, the main question. As you get older, you will ponder many important questions, such as, can water actually be wet? Why do bagels have to have the little holes? Why can't they just be a whole piece of bread to make a sandwich? And what is the meaning of life? We will discuss none of that here, but we will discuss the purpose of being in an art class. Once again, Mr. Lutz and Annie Mae will help you uncover this mystery.
Thanks a lot, Brushly. This is Mr. Lutz in animated form, here to tell you the reason why, the purpose of being in an art class. Some of you love art, some of you, not so much. Maybe it's not really your thing, but you're here anyway. Many of the things we'll do in art class are challenging, and if you love art, part of the challenge you'll be faced with is learning how to deal with and accomplish a challenging task. If you don't love art, and maybe it's not really your thing, you'll learn a different valuable life skill, which is the skill of learning how to work through things that you may not want to do. And it's not like Mr. Lutz is out to make art miserable. It's just that art is a part of school, and very often you take classes that maybe you don't like so much, but they're all essential. They're all essential for different reasons. Now, the reason why art is so important is because art is about how to think. In a lot of different subjects, you might have to memorize certain things. You might be taught what to think, but art is about learning how to think. This is all wrapped up in being creative and being a problem solver. Now, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with memorizing certain facts. There's certainly a place for that. But in the art room, it's more about learning how to think on your feet, being creative, solve those problems, complete those difficult tasks, and ultimately create some beautiful artwork. And who knows, if you give yourself a chance, maybe you'll find out you really liked art. Maybe in the beginning you thought you were more of a PE or music person, or maybe even a STEM person, but then you found out, hey, art's not so bad. And who knows, you might even be really good at it.
Hi there, y'all. I'm Annie Mae. And just like Mr. Lutz was talking about, you need to be creative when you come into the art room. Now you can start by taking simple things that you know how to draw, like circles, squares, and triangles. You can build off of those things, and you can make them 3D by adding either more lines or more shading. This will help you to make pretty much anything you want to draw. And what you're gonna do now is take one of these sheets of paper with these shapes already drawn on them. You're gonna try your best to add to these shapes on the paper to turn it into a brand new scene, a brand new picture that you come up with. Just look at this example here. Alright, y'all. Annie Mae wants to see y'all doing your very best so you can get that seal of approval. Happy drawing!
It is my sincere hope that after watching videos explaining the expectations for 2 years in a row, that you will have learned something.
Wine 111, what's your emergency?
I have a kid who is whining about having to follow directions.
Sending the ambulance now.